Hello again, and welcome to Foreplay Radio Sex Therapy. I'm your host, certified sex therapist Laurie Watson, author of Wanting Sex Again, and blogger at Psychology Today and WebMD. And I have with me Dr. Adam Matthews, my co-host, who's a couples therapist, psychotherapist, and president of NCAMFT. Foreplay is dedicated to helping couples keep it hot. Thanks for listening. Now on to today's topic.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Foreplay Radio Sex Therapy. I'm your couples therapist, Dr. Adam Matthews.
And I'm your sex therapist, Laurie Watson.
And we are here with our favorite, Laurie, our monthly mailbag where we answer. This is truly my favorite one that we do.
I do too. I love it.
So,
I love it. We're getting so many letters too. Emails basically.
Yeah, it's emails today or
okay.
text or we're getting Facebook
I'm
messages.
Old. Okay, letters.
If you want to send us, if you want to send us snail mail, send us a letter. We would love that too.
Yeah,
I think that would
cool.
be wonderful.
Okay,
so we're gonna read a couple and just see how many we get through. Again, thank you for those. If you want to send them, you can email at info@foreplayrst.com. But our first one says, hey, I love the podcast. I have a question. When I ask my boyfriend to try to be more romantic, he says I'm trying to change him because it's not in his nature to do the things I want him to do. It's nothing crazy, extravagant, just your stereotypical stuff. But I do communicate things I would like fairly often, yet he never does those things. I don't think I'm trying to change him, but at what point does it transition from asking for what you want to changing your partner? Is there a point where you just have to accept that your partner isn't romantic?
Your favorite pet peeve, Adam.
My pet peeve? Yes.
Yeah. the dating couple, right, who is not getting their needs met.
Yeah. I struggle with this, and I'll be honest with the listener here. It's a struggle of mine because while she may not be trying to change him, right, she's staying in a relationship that she's not having her needs met.
Yeah.
And so I find that difficult.
Yeah. I mean, certain things, right, are more tolerable than other things.
Sure.
Maybe he's like, a stable person. He's loving. He is complimentary. He is great and bad. And, there's some things that, maybe you can overlook that he's not very creative romantically, and that might be okay. But, also, I often say if sex goes offline during engagement or during a dating relationship and you're not very sexual, please see that as a big red flag and get that fixed before you proceed on to marriage. I think what my pet peeve on this is the Popeye defense, the I am what I am.
Yeah.
You can't change me. This is who I am, essentially. And if you don't like it, oh, well. It becomes a lot more toxic of an argument when you're married, because you've already made that commitment. When you're dating and you're saying, well, this is who I am and I'm not going to change. It's like, okay, so then I have a choice, right?
Well, yeah, because she's asking when should she accept it. Mm-hmm. And I think part of the challenge is that she might have to decide how big a deal this is, right? Is it something she has got to decide if she can live with it for the rest of their relationship, right? Mm-hmm. Is it something that is vital for her? Is it a non-negotiable? And is it okay with her that that's his defense?
And can I just say, is he an idiot? Right? Because, women often... this is how you share kind of that energy of testosterone is through good seduction and romance. And whether you like it or not, women, scientific research shows that feeling of connection is uber important to her being sexual and her feeling sexual. So right now, presumably she's very sexual, but,
eventually she won't be.
Dude, what are you thinking here? Like, how hard is it to be romantic? And I've said this, gentlemen, put it in your iPhone, just like star different times of the week, go to the store, order flowers to be delivered at sporadic times, go buy a bunch of gifts. And I know we've argued about this, but romance is so easy peasy. It's not like it's a concrete behavior, right? It's like, hey, I really need you to clean the bathrooms. It's like, I don't clean bathrooms. That's not in my character. I just don't clean bathrooms. It's like, hire a coach, hire an assistant to be romantic for you, to go buy the stuff. Ooh, that almost slipped out. And, I don't know. This is, to me, when we don't meet sort of the concrete needs of our partner, I think it's significant.
Yeah, and I
just think it's problematic.
She asked the question, at what point does it transition from asking for what you want to changing your partner? And this is what I would say, and this is something she can completely control, is when the boundary continues to be crossed, right, and she continues to allow it to be crossed. And there are no consequences for that boundary. I don't mean consequences like punishment, right? But I mean things like she continues to exist and the relationship continues unchanged in some way, right? Because she I would hope if she's listened to the podcast that she's expressing that as a need, that she's making I statements, she's talking about herself, she's being non-accusational and non-critical. If she's doing that, right, and he continues to not respond and say, I am what I am, then if she continues to be the same, then she's allowing her boundaries to be crossed, and it's going to turn into trying to change him.
Yeah. Okay. Give us another one.
All right. Number 2. Love the podcast. Been a real help to me. I'm hoping for your help on the topic of breaking through the power struggle. I am the emotional and sexual pursuer, and my wife is definitely the distancer and has withdrawn nearly completely for quite a while now. I thought making us go to therapy was my screaming from the mountaintop, quote unquote, and disrupting the status quo enough for her to see that this is really dire and serious for me and for us, and she just doesn't seem to see it. What do you recommend for breaking the struggle for me and my wife when we are obviously so entrenched in this power struggle? Also, since this is a sex therapy podcast, one of the issues is we don't have much sex or any physical contact. Maybe twice a year, I feel so alone out in the cold and dark with nothing to reach out for to guide me towards something better. Man, that is
painful.
I feel for
totally
him,
painful,
but it's really painful. So what would you say first? Where to start with this one, Laurie?
Yeah, so I mean, this is a huge disconnect, right? Physically, sexually, and emotionally, and he doesn't seem to be able to get much tread in terms of making a change. He's suggested therapy. She's refused. He's saying, this is what I need. And so people make decisions, right, to stay in marriages like this for reasons, maybe financially, economic, there's children involved. We are so about being able to heal marriages. But maybe, saying, look at, I can't live this way. Like, can you set some boundary that says, some boundary that is reasonable? I had a patient who, her husband didn't produce any income, and he actually had a job, but he didn't produce any income, and he used drugs, and it was just like, seriously. And she's like, but I've told him, and what can I do? And I'm, I've already argued this, and he still keeps doing it. And I'm like, wow, you are so powerless. What about saying, I don't want you in the home until you are sober?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really legitimate boundary that says this is too toxic for me, or, like, I need to separate, until we can get this marriage back on the road, because I've been living like this for 12 years or whatever, and I'm too alone, and I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to, go out, but I need to have you acknowledge the reality of our separation. We are separate. And so if I'm not in the home, it will become more visible to you. Right now, it's only visible to me. And, I hate separation. I absolutely hate divorce. And I have enormous hope for marriages. But I think setting a boundary sometimes when it's immovable, is sort of saying, I'm exploding in front of you. I'm giving you the big warning sign, the sign that it's untenable the way it is. And
I would also, I think the boundaries are good there too, because you're saying, I think especially with emotional and sexual pursuers, oftentimes those boundaries start to fall really quickly, or they're crossing boundaries. I would look at the boundaries that you need to set for the relationship. And I agree with you that this, in extreme cases, you might have, if nothing else works, you might have to set that separation boundary. But there are some other boundaries that you can set and say that I'm not going to continue in this way.
I'm not, this guy tried to get her into therapy and say, the condition for me continuing in this marriage is that we go to therapy every week.
Yeah.
And it sounds like he actually, in other parts of this letter, sometimes we don't read the whole letter, actually had found a good therapist, and an EFT therapist, which is, based in attachment theory. But sometimes it's saying, I can't continue unless we do this. And that's your choice.
But I think the other boundaries that he needs to start to set is make sure that he is still maintaining his sense of self and the separateness. As well. I know that may feel like if he starts to pursue a hobby or he starts to spend time with friends, that he's pulling away from her. And I'm not saying don't continue to set the need and say, this is not okay with me. But a lot of times I think that part gets lost and so it decreases attraction to each other.
Yeah, so, you're saying find activities that bring you joy and satisfaction so that your life is more fulfilling. And the only thing I might, as a caveat, say, unless you are divorcing, literally, that other activity, probably not another person of the opposite sex.
No,
right?
of course.
Even if you're saying it's just a friendship, it's like, okay, we know that's a path that's going to lead you down to an affair. And with integrity, if you're trying to integriously handle this marriage, find joyful things to do to get your needs met.
I think finding areas that for you that stimulate you physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, like anything like that attunes to who you are as an individual, right? That are healthy activities in that way, that are good things in those areas, is going to increase your sense of self, your sense of who you are, and give you more clarity into the relationship as well.
And unfortunately, at this point, take care of your needs sexually by yourself. Until you make a decision about the marriage. Okay, Foreplay Radio Sex Therapy. We'll be right back. Thank you so much to all our Patreon supporters, right?
Yeah. Patreon is a platform where you can directly support things that you love. We really want to expand the resources that we can be able to provide to you as our listeners.
If, our work touches you and our work helps you, we would be so grateful for your support. Just go to our website, foreplayrst.com, and there you can find a way to support us, and you can see our episodes and our blogs. And thank you so much, guys.
Speaking with certified sex therapist Laurie Watson from Awakening Center for Couples and Intimacy. Laurie, what is an intensive?
So an intensive is 12 to 14 hours of therapy all in one weekend. And it's a way to really make fast progress compared to weekly therapy. I mean, there's just so much more you can get done when you have a chunk of time.
Overcome the challenges in your relationship and your sex life. Learn more about intensives and Awakening Center's other services at awakenloveandsex.com.
At Matthews Counseling, we believe it is our job to come alongside you in whatever difficult challenges of life you are in and help you rediscover hope and to find the strength that you have to face those challenges. We strive to create a safe and comfortable place for you to explore who you want to be and identify the obstacles standing in your way. Oftentimes, the first step toward finding help is the hardest, but it can also be the bravest. Give us a call at 919-587-8018. Find us online at matthewscounseling.net. We look forward to working with you. And we are back doing our mailbag. Our next write-in is about trust and sex. Mail
Author's
here
a mail, right.
Says, my wife and I have been having marital problems for quite a while. She's never before climaxed. She doesn't trust me to go down on her, worried I might say something derogatory. I wonder if helping her climax could help her move past concerns.
Wow, this brings up a whole kettle of fish here, right?
This is only a few sentences, but there's a ton. There's a ton here. What would you address first, Laurie?
I just want to say something about this. She's afraid that I'll say something derogatory. I think there's two parts, right? Women are so afraid that they smell bad, they taste bad, and their anxiety makes them not able to relax to enjoy oral sex, which is a primary way women climax. Most women climax with manual stimulation or oral sex, much more so than they climax with intercourse. So he's kind of saying, hey, you're cutting me off. I like to do this. But she's so anxious about it that he'll say something. So, first, I think he needs to examine his past. Has he ever said anything derogatory? That's a killer. You got to play the long game.
But I would guess, if he's I would guess that he would answer that question and say, absolutely not. Except that he probably jokes with her as he jokes with his male friends.
Oof,
right?
That's not smart.
He probably, I'm just guessing. This is just a complete guess. I mean, I have 4 sentences on this guy.
Okay.
But my guess is that he is sarcastic with her, right? What he would consider with his male friends plays around and jokes around. And in his mind, he goes, she knows I'm teasing. She knows I'm kidding.
Not necessarily about oral sex.
I'm not talking about oral sex. I'm
just
talking about in general.
His sense of humor and the way he believes it's okay to joke might be more sarcastic than a woman finds acceptable. Like guys can rib each other.
Yeah, I mean, so there are women. I have met women out there who are sarcastic.
Oh yeah,
like if you
not me. That is like my weakness.
If you match up on that, then that's great. But I guess that he thinks that what he says is not derogatory, and she would counter that and say that's not true.
So something he has done is what you're suggesting has made her anxious about him giving her oral sex.
Well, just for her to say for that to be a fear of hers.
Right.
For that to be a fear,
right.
Like I would say that's the first thing he needs to think about.
To check
at the door and ask that question. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you're talking about you were initially talking about something different about her own concerns, and those may be there as well, right?
Right. I mean, obviously, if she's never climaxed, it's actually one of the easiest fixes. So maybe you could persuade her to go see a sex therapist. If she's anxious about oral sex, is she anxious about a vibrator? Would she be open to using that? Could you talk to her about it gently, ask her if she would be willing to explore that, say, maybe you could try it on your own. I don't even have to be in the room or the house, so that you would have total privacy. But if she knows where she's going, what the goal is, then it's often easier to experience arousal and know where you are and be able to tell your partner what you need. I used to, as a younger sex therapist, I used to always want women to manually stimulate themselves to orgasm. That I thought that was the best transferable way to teach a partner about it. But now, nope, I go straight to the vibrator because it's like a guarantee. I know she's going to have an orgasm, and then she can. I'm killing Adam.
No, it's good. I like the term straight. I go straight to the vibrator. Something I'm gonna have a T-shirt made.
You can buy Foreplay Radio sex therapy T-shirts that say straight to the vibrator.
I go straight to the vibrator.
Exactly.
Anyway, so
no, because I want her to know the goal. I want her to know what it feels like because manual stimulation and masturbation or self-stimulation it's a harder thing to get aroused, So yes, I think it would help her move past some of her concerns.
No, hang on. I want to address, because I think you would agree with me.
Oral
on
sex.
This.
Let's talk about it.
Not just with oral sex. It's this assumption that he is making that if he helps her climax, that she's going to move past her concerns. Because I read that as not just her concerns about sex, but the problems in the relationship. Right? And so tell me what you think about this, because I think that assumption means that he is probably pressuring her sexually in ways that he needs to check at the door, because he's trying to solve the problem by getting her to orgasm.
He wants her to climax.
Does he want her to? Does he want her? Is this as big a concern to her? Maybe
does
it
this
is.
make him a man or a better lover if she climaxes? I'm all about climax. I'm all about it.
I hear that, and you straight to the vibrator. I'm not I'm going to be on that for a while, just FYI. But it's still like that idea.
You're bananas, dude.
Bananas. Yeah, no, listen, the idea, he just needs to check that assumption with her. If they're not on the same page that is going to solve their issues, then he is putting pressure on her in ways that are not solving it. It's counter.
He's pursuing sexually.
Yes.
He's got an agenda. You should have a climax. And ironically, God bless you, buddy. I hope most men out there want their female partners to have orgasms, and take time and care about that. But it can become part of that toxic cycle of, I want you to have an orgasm. And suddenly she feels pressure and anxiety about performance, which decreases the likelihood of her having an orgasm. So, I would ask her how about timed exercises? All I want is for you to feel pleasure. I want to touch you so that you feel pleasure. Set it up for 30 minutes and say, I just want to touch you and enjoy touching you. And you don't have to climax. You don't have to do anything. I just want you to let me know that if it still feels good, I'll keep doing it. So that you can get to her enjoying instead of performing. And this sounds like a younger relationship, right? She's never had a climax. So probably, I think your point of somehow or another the relationship is not safe, right? And if you don't feel safe and if you don't feel relaxed, you can't climax. Okay.
Right. And just making sure that it's as important to her as it is to him.
Yeah.
Right. Hopefully it is, and they can solve it together. But if not, then they're misaligned. So moving on. Next one. I have a 9-month relationship and a fine sex life. 2 weeks ago, my boyfriend lost his dog, and it was very frustrating for him. And I was there for him. But it turned out that now he does not want to have sex with me, doesn't even want to kiss me. All he says is that he can't enjoy anything because of the loss of his dog. He said it is not about me, but I can't be sure and worry about the situation. Before the accident, I was also on a holiday for 1 month away from him. Do you think that it's possible that it's psychological? How can I help him, us? And this is a difficult one.
Yeah, it's like a trigger event for him. Yeah. And maybe, our pets are significant, right? And so it's an attachment loss. He presumably is in grief.
Yeah.
My husband raised Shetland sheepdogs and, still talks about and understands and the dog's secret language and talks about his old dog. Some people are pet people, and this is a huge loss.
I actually had a good friend who just lost a pet, right, last week actually, and it is the same. I would say, especially if you're an animal lover, right? But anyone that owns a pet, right, they become part of the family. So this is just a big loss as if he lost a human in his family, right?
And not wanting to be sexual, not wanting to kiss kind of makes sense.
Yes.
She's also, I think she's correlating with some good intuition here. And I was also gone a month. Is he sort of seeing me as an unreliable attachment figure? Again, it's a 9-month relationship. She needs to see and set a good boundary. How long can I help him? How long can I let him grieve and be okay with sexlessness?
Well, that's part of what I'm saying, Laurie, is he lost the dog 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So that is not
that's not very long.
I don't think that she has to go to that level quite yet, but she still can say, if it doesn't improve, right, that this, I want to be there for you, but it's not okay. It's not okay for me that I don't want to be in a sexless relationship.
Right. And I don't know that you say that within 2 weeks. You might just be murmur teen sympathy for, a few weeks, like, hey, dude, I know you're just grieving. This is so hard, but at some point you say, but I got to be with somebody who's sexual.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't want her to cheapen the loss, right? I don't want her to go, well, it's just a dog, because he shouldn't be grieving it in the way that he's grieving it, because I think it's significant. So she can just be there for him and allow him to grieve, and then eventually come back within a month or so, a month from the loss at least, and start to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think would be a little more appropriate there.
Okay, so this is we're going to do one pretty quickly. Premature ejaculation, no pun intended. But this is an international question from India. Thank you so much for listening in India. Oh, my goodness. I found your podcast while surfing the net. I'm 35 years old, and I've been married for 5 years, and I'm suffering from PE. I was previously addicted to porn sites and used to masturbate frequently, twice a week. I got married 3 years ago, and now my marriage is about to end due to premature ejaculation. On my first night, I ejaculated soon after vaginal intercourse. After that, my wife became very rude to me, and this led me into difficult situations, anxiety, shame, fear, anger, and depression. Over the years, I lost my concentration, and my PE has become more severe than ever. I believe that I could overcome this, but only with the support of my wife. So I actually did correspond with this person and made some suggestions, and they had already contacted their urologist, had already used an SSRI, which is an antidepressant, but at low doses is often used to counteract premature ejaculation. And I actually see a lot of Indian couples, it turns out. And, the difficulty is within the culture, they often are virgins at the wedding night. There's very little sexual contact or even dating sometimes. He doesn't mention whether it was an arranged marriage or not, but sometimes it is. And it's very, 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 very important to produce children. And there's so much misconception because there's so little information. His wife could have thought that the premature ejaculation was him denying her, not wanting to be inside her. I mean, she could have made up all kinds of things in her head about what it meant. But I think fundamentally it also means, if you prematurely ejaculate before you get into my vagina, then we're not going to have children. That's a big stressor. She may believe that she's only able to climax through sexual intercourse. Neither one of them may understand about clitoral stimulation as the pathway for her to climax and have pleasure. If you're listening, dude, I'd love for you to listen to the podcast number 1 so that you can learn how to please a woman and what it takes for women to orgasm, because even with premature ejaculation, you can be a satisfying lover and letting her know that she's sexy. I think they're living apart, though, at this point, and the marriage is on the rocks, so that would be difficult to be sexual. But I would say go back to marital therapy, see if you can go again, and if the two of you can try. I hate that misinformation about sexuality is so destructive as to ruin a potential good match. I hate this. And we see this, don't we, Adam?
All the time, yeah.
That sex is so intrinsic to a marriage, and that people, could learn how to solve these easily resolved sexual problems. They could learn how to make the other one feel good, both physically as well as desired. And really, it's our culture, which is in an American culture, it's sex saturated. But it doesn't matter. I mean, people are not making love well. They're not making love that is hot. They're not having continuous erotic connection. It's just breaking apart, and it breaks our hearts. But thank you again for listening across the ocean and for caring enough to write to us. We wish you well. All of you who write in, thanks a lot. You're listening to Foreplay Radio Sex Therapy, our mailbag.
You can now call in your questions to the Foreplay question voicemail. Dial 833-MY-4PLAY. That's 833-4-PLAY. And we'll use the questions for our mailbag episodes.
Hey, help us stay on top here at Foreplay. We'd love it if you would subscribe and share it with your friends. And please take 1 sec and rate and review us. Thanks so much.
All content is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as a substitute for therapy by a licensed clinician or as medical advice from a doctor.